Thank you to Adam. So now we're going to hear from Charlotte, who is the manager of the Lincolnshire Nature Partnership, where the Record Centre is fully integrated into the working of that partnership and is fundamental to set and achieve the partnership's nature objectives. So we've moved from a very specific project to working in a much wider context. So over to you, Charlotte.
Thank you. And yes, my presentation will be far less technical. I'm not a technical person particularly. As Deb said, I'm the Nature Partnership Manager, so I take on overall management for the Nature Partnership in Greater Lincolnshire. So today I'm going to talk about LERCs and nature partnerships kind of working together. We are fully integrated, so we are one organisation essentially. And I think we're unique in that in the country, but please correct me if I'm wrong in the questions later. I'm not going to say that this is a perfect system and we suggest that everybody does this. It works really well for us in Lincolnshire. And I think a lot of that is kind of the history and how this all came about. So I'm going to go into a lot of that during this presentation. So I will just talk a little bit about who we are and what we do, and kind of how the two got integrated, the Record Centre and the Nature Partnership, how we became integrated together. And then I'm going to go through some examples of projects that we've worked on and why it has been so beneficial in these projects that we're integrated into one organisation. I thought it was worth starting off and just giving you a little bit of a background to Lincolnshire. Lincolnshire is a little bit of a forgotten county, I think. We're not on the way to anywhere. Sometimes people come and see our cathedral and that kind of stuff, but lots of people don't know Lincolnshire very well. This is particularly in the south of the county, I would say this is a pretty standard picture of what our countryside looks like. We are highly, highly agricultural in Lincolnshire. So we produce about 30% of the UK's veg. So we are highly agricultural. About 80% of the land is agricultural land. So that is really ingrained into culture and Lincolnshire life completely. And it also obviously is a big story when it comes to nature conservation and what's happened to our nature over the years in this county. I won't say it's all been bad. We have some very exciting things nature-wise in Lincolnshire. So we are a stronghold for water vole. I'm not sure if anybody has seen in the news this week, there's lots about the eradication of mink from East Anglia. We are part of that big project, and so we're hoping that this will become even more of a stronghold for water vole in the future. A few years ago, we had cranes come back to Greater Lincolnshire. So they had fledged chicks for the first time in hundreds and hundreds of years. We also have natterjack toads, which had declined to very small populations in the country, but we now have growing populations over here. So we have some very exciting things nature-wise. We also have the second oldest wildlife trust in the country as well. Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust has a very, very long history. We've just celebrated their 75th anniversary. Also kind of politically, just to give you an idea, because we integrate and work a lot with local authorities in our work. We're a big county, so we do cover a lot of land, but a fairly small, sparsely populated county. Lincoln has about 130,000 people living there, but that's by far the biggest. That's the only city within the county, and it's by far the kind of densest populated area. So we are split into, we had two unitary councils, which are the north and north east up in the north of Lincolnshire bordering the Humber. And then we have the county council area, which is covered by 7 district councils. We're also just about to go through devolution as well. So we work with all of these councils on our work. They are all partners in the Greater Lincolnshire Nature Partnership. I thought it was just worth mentioning, just to give you a bit of a backdrop to what the county is like. Also, just to note here, we have the Humber to the north, the Wash to the south. So we always say our nature partnerships covers from the Humber to the Wash. And of course, they are really, really important nature areas as well. So it's something that we work very closely with people. So as a organisation, we are a partnership of 49 different organisations. We are hosted within the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust. So we have an office within the Wildlife Trust. We've got a long history, which I'll tell you more about. And as I said, our Environmental Record Centre is completely integrated into the Nature Partnership. As a team, we are a team of 5 full-time members of staff. That is a big team for a nature partnership. You'll find with lots of nature partnerships, although they cover most of the country, they can come down to 1 person half a day a week, or they can be more like us, where we have a full team of 5. And we have graduate placements and internships and other things that we do as well. We are run by a steering group. So although we're hosted by the Wildlife Trust, we report to a steering group. We have a steering group of 14 people, and they represent our partners. So we have environmental NGOs on there. We have the councils represented. We have lots of other organisations. We have representatives from health and well-being, from tourism, to kind of integrate nature into all of those different areas. So yeah, we report to a steering group, and that's how we have been running. So just to give you an idea of some of our partners. So we run in 2 different ways. We have paying partners. So all of the councils in Greater Lincolnshire are paying partners. We also have service level agreements with Anglian Water and the Environment Agency. And we have paying partners in the internal drainage board. So all of the drainage boards in Greater Lincolnshire, it's a very, very drained county. So we are partners with all of those. And then we have partners that will add things like data. So we have the Bird Club, the Bat Group, Butterfly Conservation, etc., etc. So I won't go through all of these in detail, but it just gives you an idea of all the different partners that we have. We're actually now about to swap to a new system of having partners and supporters, since the kind of agenda for nature has become far more in the public eye, and companies and organisations are wanting to seem to be more green. We're getting lots and lots of organisations and companies contacting us and asking if they can be partners as well. We feel like we want a system where we have kind of 2 tiers, that we have partners that are able to vote on the work that we're doing, direct the work we're doing, and that we have supporters, which can be companies, etc., which might want to benefit from some of the work we're doing, but wouldn't necessarily have voting rights on what we do moving forward. So it just gives you an idea. We have a really strong link with the university as well. That's been really beneficial in terms of data, working with students, and working on projects together that we think are going to benefit the county. So our history, and I think this is a big reason why we are integrated. So we had a BAT partnership, and that started in 2001, and that was very much for the biodiversity action plans, and that was their remit essentially. There were then talks of the record centre. So the Wildlife Trust had been holding data, looking at local wildlife sites, or SNCIs, and a record centre was formed in 2006. We've been very lucky that we still have the same data centre manager that we do from 2006. He is an absolute whiz. When I say at the start of the presentation that I'm not technical, it's because he's the technical person and does all of that. So we've had the same person as our data centre manager since the beginning, and yeah, fantastic. The BAT partnership then moved into a biodiversity partnership. So Lincolnshire Biodiversity Partnership was formed in 2007. And at that point, the local nature partnership, or what became the local nature partnership, and the local environmental record centre joined together. It was both of these kind of organisations, or these partnerships, and the record centre were held within the Wildlife Trust anyway. They saw that there was so much kind of crossover and interaction between this work. They thought, right, let's put it all together. I wasn't there at the time. I've been in this position for about 3.5 years now. So very much further down the line. So shortly after that, so we had the Lincolnshire Biodiversity Partnership. At that point, there was about 30 partners. Certainly the councils were involved. Some other organisations were involved. And then the government produced a white paper in 2011 suggesting that nature partnerships should be formed all over the country, that there should be 48 nature partnerships. So essentially covering the counties that we have in England. At that point, Greater Lincolnshire Nature Partnership was born, and that is where we have progressed from there. Now, I wouldn't say that we are exactly the same as we were 12 years ago. We're always changing, we're constantly changing. And I think this has been one of the benefits of having the Nature Partnership and the Records Centre together, is through different periods we have supported each other, and the staffing, we've been able to be kind of agile and flexible. So I think initially when the Nature Partnership came together, asking people to pay us service level agreements for policy work and for expertise was something that was really quite new and novel, and needed our expertise and the understanding of what we could offer different organisations really needed to be kind of embedded. But what we did have is that we had the Record Centre, so we had something tangible, we had data that we could say, as part of your service level agreement, you will get access to this. And so initially, I think the Record Centre very much supported the Nature Partnership. As we've moved on, we have really built up a very strong partnership. We are seen as the kind of go-to place in terms of advice and support, particularly in policy for nature in our county. And so now we've kind of progressed. In some ways, we support the Record Centre. We've just done a big upgrade to LERC Search, which is our Record Centre searching system, which I'll tell you about shortly. And we've, as a Nature Partnership, have made a decision to invest in that. So at different times, we've kind of gone through ebbs and flows of supporting each other. And also with our staffing being one team, we've been able to be flexible. So our staff team, as I said, is a team of 5. So we have myself as the manager. I have 2 policy officers and 2 data officers. The data officers, one of them manages the Record Centre, the other one looks more at the local site system and is also doing the ancient woodland inventory. Our policy, I'll talk about a little bit more further down the line. So local nature partnerships, what are they actually supposed to do? It is a very, very broad term. This is something I learned right from the offset of when I was applying for this job, doing a little bit of a search, trying to learn, right, what is a nature partnership manager? What does that mean? And it could mean all sorts of things. So that's quite nice in the way that we are very flexible and agile. Essentially, this is what the government would say, is that local nature partnerships bring together local organisations, businesses and people who want to improve their local natural environment. So the scope is pretty wide. And yeah, I'll tell you more about our kind of interpretation. To give you an idea, these are all of the record centres. This is from 2015. It was the most up-to-date map I could find, so there might not be, this might have changed slightly. So we are Greater Lincolnshire, so we're number 8 on that map if you can see it. We are also covered in the north by the Humber Nature Partnership. So we work really closely with them as well. Our record centre covers the whole area, so we are the only record centre for Greater Lincolnshire, but the Humber Nature Partnership specifically works on the Humber, and they work a lot with industry. So we've kind of, as I said, that broad remit of nature partnerships, we've worked out where our niche is. So what they will work on, what we will work on, so that we work closely together and don't just do the same thing in the same place. So I thought it'd be useful as well just to give you a little bit of background to our record centre. So until 2018, we did physical searches. So we would have somebody contact us, say where they wanted to search, what data they wanted. They'd have a turnaround. We'd have a turnaround of about a week to get them their data back. Charlie, who runs our record centre, came up with the idea of actually doing an online system instead, to be able to make sure that people could get their data instantly. And I think probably one of the benefits that would be for him is that it would free up his time to do lots of other things as well. So I should update this slide a little bit. We actually hold 13 million records in our record centre, so we hold a huge number of records. LERC Search is a 24/7 access with instant results. So you can get an instant search from our record centre. So all of our service level agreements, so all of the councils within Greater Lincolnshire, so essentially all the planning authorities, that's what's really, really important, have free access to this. That is part of their service level agreements. They can do as many searches as they would like. So if you go onto our website, I'll just kind of run you through how the system works. We have a very low cost for our records. Part of this is because it is that support from the Nature Partnership as well. We kind of keep our searches as low as we can with the hope that the most people can use them. We can get this to balance out. I know that lots of other record centres wouldn't be able to produce records for this price. So it's just that this works for us. As I said, I'm not in any way saying that ours is the perfect model, but this works for us. So you go on. You do have to register first, so we do make sure that we have the right people accessing data. And then once you have done that, you just log in. And you can begin your search. So you put in your grid reference, say the buffer zone you want, and off you go. You will then get your results coming back, and you will get a report coming through in just a second. So we have a system where people are able to have an account and we charge them an invoice afterwards, or you can just pay by card. And then you get your report back. So it's a very quick thing. This will take about 10 seconds to be able to get this, and they'll be able to get all of the information that they have asked for. So it's a very quick, simple system. We've now just reinvested in LERC search, and as well as being able to do a point search, and with your buffer zone around it, you will be able to upload a shapefile and be able to choose whatever area you want. So we're just in development of that. It's a bit more complicated. So yeah, that is in development at the moment, but very soon we will be able to do that, and people will be able to go on, choose the area they want, and get their search back and get their report back very, very quickly. We also save all the searches for a year as well, so people can go back into that. Just to give you an idea of what this has done for our record centre. For one, it has saved Charlie, who's the data centre manager, a huge amount of time. He reckons that about 70% of the searches that he was working on manually were covered by LERC search. Once we get this new system in where people are able to choose the area through a shapefile, he thinks it's going to get that up to about 95%. There will still be the odd one where people want things that are specific and want more detail, and we will of course do that as a physical search, and we still do those. But this is a quick, easy thing for lots of planning authorities and consultants to be able to use really quickly. It's been really, really successful. You can see here over time, this is the number of searches that we've been getting per month. This does include our SLA searches, so some of them where there's a big spike. So you can see there was over 100 in November 2021. That was one of the particular planning authorities. I think they're working on a local plan, and we're searching and searching and searching and doing lots and lots of work on it. To give you an idea in terms of what this has done as well in income, essentially our income has over doubled during the last 5 years. So we are not only just getting lots and lots of searches through our SLAs, but we are getting more and more searches through consultants and other people that are using the paying service. So we're really pleased about this. This means the data is being used, and that is exactly what we want. And I think part of this is our really close relationship with planning authorities, because we do policy work and we're working with planning authorities through that. It means that we tell them about LERC search, we train them on it, training events, we always bring it up. There's a lot of promotion going through our policy work in terms of the record centre as well. So why combine? I think there's a number of reasons behind this. So firstly, there was the opportunity. We were swapping to a biodiversity partnership, and the record centre then came about. We knew that nature partnerships were coming up, and the opportunity was there to be able to combine. A huge thing for us is funding. I know that a lot of nature partnerships and record centres at times can struggle with funding. And because we've combined both of them together, when it comes to things like getting service level agreements with local authorities, they only have to find one pot of funding, not 2 pots of funding. It kind of streamlines things. And it does mean, as I said, that we've got that little bit of flexibility. You know, now the record centre is bringing in a lot more income than it was previously. We're able to kind of balance that out in terms of what we need to ask for our service level agreements, so we can bring that down, which means that's good for our partners. So it's made us kind of agile in terms of funding. And I think for our planning authorities or the local authorities in general that pay our service level agreements, they've been able to justify it easier. Different departments want different things from us. So we've been able to kind of make our service level agreements much, much more wide. We also had huge amounts of local support. So this kind of partnership working in Lincolnshire is is something that is been really ingrained. And so there was local support to start the Record Centre and bring all of these things together. The integrated work, and that is what I'm going to spend the rest of the presentation talking to you about, is a really big reason for combining. So particularly because we do a lot of policy work, it's making sure that policy and data come together. A great example, the example I'll talk to you about mainly, is the local nature recovery strategy. We're leading on the local nature recovery strategy for Greater Lincolnshire, and there are different elements to it. Part of it is to be doing engagement events and talking to people and gathering information and running events and that kind of thing. And then there's data and mapping. And because we have these two arms, or we're under one umbrella, we're able to fulfill all of those things. So the things that we do a lot of policy work, and I'll talk about our policy areas. We manage the local wildlife sites and local geodiversity site system for the local authorities. So we hold all of the data. We are actually now starting to have our own team do surveys as well. We have just gone through a guidelines change for our local wildlife site system and integrated this with biodiversity net gain. So again, that this is going to be useful. This is something we consulted with planning authorities, saying how can we make the data the most useful for you. We also are updating the ancient woodland inventory for Greater Lincolnshire. We have projects like we're working on Operation Watervole. This is less on the record side centre side, but we'll be getting more records of watervoles. We're going to be getting records of where mink are, and that all comes back into our project as well. Operation Watervole is essentially looking at eradicating mink from Greater Lincolnshire. And then we do a huge amount of mapping. I think our GIS work is something that's really outstanding for the Nature Partnership. And really this has come about because we've changed the system of how our general day-to-day searches are done within the Record Centre. So it's freed up Charlie's time to be able to concentrate on doing mapping. And because we have these service level agreements with local authorities, they essentially can, if we're discussing a problem at our steering group meeting, for instance, and they, a map would help people with that, we can just come up with that. We don't have to look at, right, well, we need to be contracted for this. This is a payment for our time, etc., etc. We're kind of already covered to be able to do some of this work. The local nature recovery strategy is a particular one that I'll talk to you about in detail. So our policy priorities, the areas of policy we work on farming and nature. So agriculture is really important in Greater Lincolnshire. That's something I've spoken about before. Being well with nature, so we represent health and well-being. Planning with nature, and that is what fits very closely with our Record Centre. And enjoying nature, we also work on tourism projects as well. Example of that would be the Lincolnshire Bird Trail. We've worked with the Bird Club. The Bird Club supply data to the Record Centre, and we worked with them and the County Council to create new bird trails across Lincolnshire to bring in tourism, essentially. But that also means added records to the Record Centre, working closely with one of our biggest partners, the County Council. So you can see how we kind of start to pull our partners in on different projects and how that can benefit the Record Centre at the same time. I'm not expecting everyone to see every detail of this. It's incredibly complicated. One of the things that we thought would be useful for our partners, and then useful to see how we fit into all of the new legislation that's come out of the Environment Act, is to kind of map that out. So how does biodiversity net gain work with local nature recovery strategies? How does that work with lots of other things that are happening? So this is something that we've pulled together with our partners as well. As I said, we manage the local site system. So we look after the data for this, and more recently have actually started collecting data ourselves. Funding for the local site system and resurveying is sporadic, but that's something we're looking at actually including in our service level agreements moving forward. That we can do the surveys so that we can get this on a rolling system, so that all local wildlife sites and geodiversity sites will be surveyed at least every 10 years. And by adding a small amount to our service level agreement, we can then keep that on a rolling system and keep that completely up to date, which I know can be a real struggle. And I think some record centres that work with the local site system, some find this easier to get funding than others. Again, it just changes across the country, unfortunately. So biodiversity opportunity mapping, this was something I wanted to mention. So once LERC search was was working and we were getting the searches in automatically, or people were getting their searches automatically, Charlie then had some free time and he started to think, right, what can we do? And we started looking at biodiversity opportunity mapping, really looking at a strategic approach to nature recovery, landscape scale, and how this can be integrated into local plans. This was really, really important. And this is something that has been a benefit to us since biodiversity net gain and local nature recovery strategies. In theory, the two were supposed to come in at the same time. They were both supposed to come in November last year. Biodiversity net gain is slightly late and local nature recovery strategies will be much later. They're not going to be until March 2025. So because we had done biodiversity opportunity mapping, and I will show you our mapping in just a second, and our close relationships of working with the councils and working with planning authorities, our biodiversity opportunity mapping has been integrated into all local plans, which already means that we're prioritising nature. Even without the local nature recovery strategy, we have some of that integrated into local plans already. And I'm very pleased that we were able to do that, with the fact that these delays have come into play. So in theory, this should show you a short video. There's no audio or anything. It just zooms in on the maps a little bit. Essentially, you can see on the right-hand side, our biodiversity opportunity mapping. The green are ecological networks. So these are areas that are already good for nature. Dark green, the better. The brown areas are areas for opportunities for creation. Works along the Lawton principles of essentially trying to more, bigger, better and joined. So trying to join up our areas that are already good quality for nature. So this should just zoom in potentially. Let's see. Yeah, we can see that my cursor is moving. So just to give you an idea, this is the biodiversity opportunity mapping that we have produced. All of our partners have access to this, so they can have a look. We've taken this mapping way further, that we're not just talking, now we have maps looking at what could be created on this land, rather than just it's an opportunity to create something. We wanted to be able to direct people a little bit further. So this has been incredibly helpful and has been integrated into local plans, and getting it into local plans has been, our policy work has been integral in that. So my policy officer, Luke, he works with planning authorities, sits in on their local plan meetings. We have biodiversity net gain task and finish groups, all sorts of things, and we are always part of this, and so we're able to feed this mapping in. Moving on to the local nature recovery strategy. So we are working on the Greater Lincolnshire. So although we have two unitary authorities and a county council, we have joined together as one big organisation for the local nature recovery strategy. So our management board, we work with North and North East Lincolnshire, the unitary councils and the county council, which covers the rest of Lincolnshire, Natural England, and us as the Greater Lincolnshire Nature Partnership. So you may or may not know a lot about local nature recovery strategies. These are essentially strategies that will be used to direct biodiversity net gain, and so they are seen as a planning tool for planning authorities, but to look at a recovery plan for each of the counties in the country. And then in theory, all of these link together into one big nature recovery network across the whole country. There are two main parts of local nature recovery strategies. One is a statement of biodiversity priorities. So this is working with local people on what do they want their priorities for nature to be, and a local habitat map, which maps the areas that are already good for nature and where there are opportunities to create nature. A lot of record centres, I think, are working on the local habitat work, but because we are integrated with the Nature Partnership as well, we are also working on the other side. So we are leading on the local nature recovery strategy. We've essentially been commissioned to do most of the work, because we were able to do both sides of it, which is really interesting, I think. Which also means that flow between those two things is really kind of smooth. So we've done things like we had a local a public survey so that we could start to look at what the priorities are for people in Greater Lincolnshire. We've produced a short video. I won't go through all of this, but we've created a video and a website for local nature recovery strategy. We've kind of done this all kind of independently. And then we moved on to the mapping. We've only really started the mapping for the local nature recovery strategy recently, but because of the mapping we'd done with biodiversity opportunity mapping, the fact that we manage the local site system, etc., a lot of the mapping we need to do for this step 1, which is mapping areas of particular importance, so conservation sites, local nature reserves, local wildlife sites, irreplaceable habitats, as they are designated by BNG. Later, we'll be looking at other work, so opportunities recovery. That's where our local nature recovery strategy comes in. Sorry, that is where our biodiversity opportunity mapping comes in, and some of the other mapping we've done, which I'll show you as well. So we have a kind of online mapping system, which again, our partners are all able to use this. So we have a priority habitat mapping, we have statutory sites mapping. We're pulling all of this together for the local nature recovery strategy. We also have the biodiversity opportunity mapping as well. Habitat suitability. So this is a thing we've kind of progressed onto. And this is an example of where we've been able to fulfill something really quickly for the local authorities. So the county council came to us because they had a tree planting target, as I imagine many of you have in lots of different counties across the country. Now, the interesting thing in terms of, I'm not against tree planting in any way, I'd like to say that. The interesting thing for Lincolnshire is that it is not a county that would be historically would be covered in trees. You know, we have a huge area of the fens come into Lincolnshire, and generally, historically, we would have been a big wetland. So there certainly are areas that are suitable for tree planting, but we do really need to think about it. And we very much promote, and we wrote a tree planting strategy on right tree, right place. And this is something we got all of our partners to sign up to, so that we were going to approach tree planting in the right way, so that we were doing the right trees and we were doing them in the right place, not planting big forests in the fenlands. So we looked at doing some mapping. So our record centre data went in to look at doing some mapping on what, if you were going to create habitat, what sort of habitat would be suitable for that area, and that was able to direct tree planting into the right places. This isn't really prescriptive, so we pulled together our different partners to have a kind of task and finish group, and we showed them some mapping, asked the sort of things that's going to be useful for them, for different organisations, to make sure that this would work. And so if you zoom in on this mapping, I won't do it right now. It will give you different, so what would be what is suggested as being the most suitable, what might be next, etc., etc. So it gives you different options, and it would also importantly for this particular example, we've got a scale there of whether it would be suitable for tree planting or if you should avoid large scale tree planting. We're not talking about small plantations around communities, those kind of things, but kind of large scale tree planting. So that was a way that we were able to be kind of react to something that one of our partners wanted quite quickly, and give them some mapping that would help them. We're also doing a natural capital plan, and this is really interesting. Again, it's our policy officer working with Charlie from the Record Centre and integrating these two things together. To help with the natural capital, help with the local nature recovery strategy, we really think a natural capital plan is really important to make this practical, in terms of green finance and things that might be of interest to landowners as well. We think that this is going to be really, really helpful. But this is different areas working together. So our policy officer working with our record centre manager. Just as a note, if you want to keep up to date with what we're doing with the local nature recovery strategy, that is our link tree. It would take you through to our website and other things if you want to keep up to date with that. So just to kind of round up, what have we learnt doing this? As I said, I haven't been the Nature Partnership Manager the whole time that this integration has happened, but I must say I have felt incredibly lucky coming into this position, and knowing that we do have this fully kind of it's full integration between our organisations and being able to work together on things, not having to the flexibility in terms of staffing and the flexibility in terms of funding, I think has been incredibly helpful for us. It is something that is constantly managed, as any partnership is. So when we have such large numbers of partners, we are a big county as well. So staying up to date with what is suitable for all of the local authorities and what they need us for is something that we need to constantly monitor. But I would say that for, you know, all record centres, that you need to keep thinking, you know, as you know, any business would ever need to think, you need to think about what your customers want, essentially. So I think we've learned for this being a really positive thing. We have developed this very strong partnership. I can't see us kind of splitting apart anytime soon. I think this is the model we will work with. So, and as I said, I'm not saying that this is the perfect model, but if you are a record centre that currently doesn't work at all with your nature partnership, then maybe it's encourage you to work a little bit closer together, because I think just working together can always be a benefit. I'm obviously a big advocate for partnerships. I think partnership working is a fantastic thing, and I can only see the benefits to it. Although sometimes they can be hard to kind of, you know, keep going and manage and pull together. But for us, it's been incredibly positive. If you want to stay up to date with anything that we're doing, this is our link tree, so you can have a look at our website. So we have the Nature Partnership website, we have LERC search, and then we have a website for the local nature recovery strategy. And I've just popped my email address in there as well, just in case anybody wants to follow up with any questions, have a chat about any of this. I know it is quite a different setup, particularly kind of financially, it's quite a different setup to lots of other record centres. So if you ever want to chat any of that stuff through, then just let me know. Thank you.